Hello and welcome back to another week in new genre books. Thanks for stopping by. We're always glad to have you here. My name is Amelia, and from Locus magazine, I'm about to tell you the top new science fiction, fantasy, and horror books being published the week of January 17th, 2023. Please like and subscribe. That is a big part of keeping this booktube going, and all you have to do is click the subscribe button. I've got links for timing if you want to skip to your favorite category, be it science fiction, fantasy, or horror. We love them all. Starting with science fiction books this week, we have 3 science fiction titles being published. First, from Eleanor Clover, we have 7% of Ro Devereux out from Harper Teen in hardcover, ebook, and audio. In this YA SF novel, Ro creates an app that can predict a person's future with 93% accuracy. We dig the inexact number. 93% feels more realistic than 90 or 95%, and still an A or maybe an A- if it were factored as a letter grade. Next, from Meg Long, we have Swift the Storm, Fierce the Flame, out from Wednesday Books in hardcover, ebook, and audio. This is a young adult SF novel about a genetically engineered young woman trained as a corporate spy, searching for a missing friend on a doomed planet. From Rem Wigmore, we have Wolfpack, out from Queen of Swords Press in trade paperback and ebook. This SF novel is a sequel to Fox Hunt. In it, Orpheus risks her life in the Cloud Forest to get a gift for her beloved, but the mechanized guardian threatens to destroy the world to track her down. And this is another aside. Look, I'm fond of the business term scope creep to describe when a project morphs into something else, because surely destroying the world is maybe a little uncalled for if what the mechanized guardian wants is to stop Orpheus from getting her sweetie a prezi. Next up, horror. We have 3 titles in horror this week. First, from Grady Hendrix, we have How to Sell a Haunted House, out from Berkeley in hardcover, ebook, and audio. This is a darkly humorous Southern Gothic / haunted house horror novel. Louise, cleaning out her parents' house after their deaths, discovers the house doesn't want to be sold. From Ian Mann's review in the January issue of Locus, Hendrix's sublime character work is the main source of the novel's humor, particularly Mark and Louise's extended family on their mother's side. I particularly loved their take-no-shit cousin Mercy, a real estate agent who, having checked out the property, informs the siblings their house is haunted and I'm not selling it until you deal with that. And the larger-than-life Aunt Gail, who spends her days blasting demons back to hell and once battled a warlock in Somerville. Next, from Sean Mao, we have Apollo Weeps, out from Aqueduct in trade paperback and ebook. This short horror novel is a modern retelling of The Phantom of the Opera while talking about race and social injustice. Book 86 in the Conversation Pieces series. From Juan Martinez, we have Extended Stay, out from University of Arizona Press in trade paperback and ebook. In this horror novel, undocumented immigrants, a pair of grieving siblings, fleeing rebel violence in Colombia, end up in a run-down Las Vegas hotel and casino, not realizing the building is part of a vast subterranean entity, part of the press's Camino del Sol series spotlighting Latinx authors. Next, we have one nonfiction title from Italo Calvino, The Written World and the Unwritten World, out from Mariner in ebook. This is a nonfiction collection of essays, book reviews, and letters on many topics, including reading, writing, and publishing, with musings on the fantastic tale. Translated by the Italian by Anne Goldstein. Next up, fantasy. We have 9 titles this week. First, from the wild imagination of Jonathan Carroll, we have Mr. Breakfast, out from Melville House in hardcover and ebook. This is a contemporary fantasy novel. A comedian turned photographer gets a tattoo and starts seeing mirror versions of himself and is told he can choose one of 3 versions of his life. From Gary K. Wolfe's review in the pages of Locus, the story is framed by a journalist interviewing an elderly woman named Ruth Murphy about her relationship with world-famous photographer Graham Patterson, whose best-known work is a photo of an abandoned roadside diner with a faded sign reading, Mr. Breakfast. We then shift to Patterson's own narrative in which, as a failing comedian, he wanders into a tattoo parlor in rural North Carolina and impulsively decides to get a strange tattoo. A bee inside a frog, inside a hawk, inside a lion. So, and this is Amelia again, a sort of turducken is what we're talking about with this strange tattoo, except with predators, plus a bee and a frog. I guess the predators gotta wrap their jaws around something. Next, from Kate Elliott, we have The Keepers 6, out from Tor.com in hardcover, ebook, and audio. This fantasy novel is about a group of trekkers who travel the shifting landscapes of the beyond, and their leader, who breaks the rules to rescue her son, kidnapped by a dragon. From Liz Bourke's review in the January issue of Locus, most people on Earth know nothing about the beyond, but it runs in Esther's family. Her son Daniel is keeper for their hex. He holds the keep that forms an entry and exit point from Earth to the beyond, and which acts as the safe zone in that perilous space. There's an interrealm body that regulates hexes, known as a concilium. We don't learn exactly what powers and dominions make up this body, but it certainly includes dragons. Put that on a t-shirt. From Joa Rydale, we have Please Report Your Bug Here, out from Holt in hardcover, ebook, and audio. This is a fantasy novel. A dating app employee discovers a glitch that transports him to other worlds. Does that count as a long-distance relationship if you're dating someone on another world? From Amélie Wen Zhao, we have Song of Silver, Flame Like Night, out from Delacorte in hardcover, ebook, and audio. This is a young adult fantasy novel based on Chinese traditions, first in a new Xian series. Next, from Mike Albo, we have Another Dimension of Us, out from Penguin Workshop in hardcover, ebook, and audio. This is a young adult gay fantasy romance novel of alternate dimensions and time travel. Teens accidentally swap minds and bodies across the astral plane between 1986 and 2044, and one needs to be rescued from a demon. From Brandon Ying Kit Boey, we have Karma of the Sun, out from Camcat Books in hardcover, ebook, and audio. This apocalyptic fantasy novel is set in a Tibet struggling with nuclear winter, haunted by spirits and facing prophecies of doom. Karma, a young man with prophetic powers, seeks his missing father and a mountain said to connect the physical world with the spirit world, offering a way to save the planet. From Marisa Crane, we have I Keep My Exoskeleton to Myself, out from Catapult in hardcover, ebook, and audio. This is a fantasy novel set in a surveillance state where wrongdoers are given an extra shadow for every transgression, including children whose mothers die in childbirth. Love the concept. Instead of being shadow banned as punishment, you get duplicate shadows. From Lesley Livingston, we have Queen Among the Dead, out from Zando in trade paperback, ebook, and audio. This is a Celtic fantasy novel. Neve, daughter of the King of Ire, would rather be a warrior than a princess and fight the greedy druids and unjust court. Lastly, from H.M. Long, we have Barrow of Winter, out from Titan Books UK in trade paperback, ebook, and audio. This is a fantasy novel set in the world of Hall and Smoke. Threy travels to the land her father once ruled, where her siblings are worshipped as gods. That wraps up this week. Thanks for spending some time with us. At Locus, we want to tell you everything relevant that's happening in the science fiction, fantasy, horror publishing space. We appreciate your eyes and ears and your likes and subscribes. Please do subscribe and turn notifications on so you know about this video when it goes up every week. The magazine and YouTube channel are a labor of love. We are at Locus Mag or at Locus Magazine on most platforms. You can read more about the science fiction, fantasy, and horror field over at www.locusmag.com or support us on our Patreon. We are a 501c3 nonprofit. Come back and see us again soon, and we'll be here next week with more new books.